The morning sun was bright when Hye-yeon walked to her small art studio in Seoul. She loved these quiet morning walks, especially in spring when the air was fresh and clean. Hye-yeon was 28 years old and worked as an art restorer, fixing old paintings to make them look new again. Her studio was a cozy place with large windows that let in plenty of light. Tools and brushes lay neatly arranged on her wooden workbench. The walls were covered with paintings she had fixed, each telling its own story. She was proud of her work, even though not many people knew about her small studio. As Hye-yeon unlocked the door that morning, she noticed something strange. There was a letter on her doorstep. The envelope was different from any she had seen before. It was made of thick, cream-colored paper that felt soft to touch. A beautiful peacock feather was attached to it with a golden seal. "How odd," she said quietly, picking up the envelope. No one ever sent her letters to the studio. Most people just called or sent emails these days. Inside, she found a letter written in elegant handwriting. The paper smelled faintly of lavender. Hye-yeon sat at her desk and began to read. Asterisk, Dear Ms. Hye-yeon asterisk. Asterisk, we are pleased to invite you to the annual spring ball at Peacock House. We have heard of your excellent work in art restoration and would like to discuss a special project with you. The ball will be held this Saturday evening at 7 o'clock asterisk. Asterisk Peacock House stands on Hill Road, just outside the city. A car will pick you up from your studio at 6 p.m. if you wish to attend. Please wear formal attire asterisk. Asterisk, we await your response asterisk. Asterisk, sincerely asterisk. Asterisk, Do-hyun asterisk. Asterisk, master of Peacock House asterisk. Hye-yeon read the letter 3 times. She had heard stories about Peacock House. It was a famous mansion built long ago, known for its beautiful architecture and vast collection of art. But very few people had ever been inside. Some said it was magical, others said it was mysterious. Everyone agreed it was special. She walked to her computer and searched for information about Peacock House. There weren't many pictures online, just a few old photos showing a grand building with peacock designs on its gates. The articles she found talked about its famous art collection, worth millions of dollars. This must be a joke, Hye-yeon thought. Why would such a prestigious place contact her? Her studio was small, and she usually worked on simple restoration projects for local art dealers. But when she looked at the peacock feather again, something felt different about it. The colors seemed to shift in the sunlight, showing patterns she had never seen before. It wasn't like any peacock feather she had seen in museums or pictures. Hye-yeon picked up her phone to call her friend Mi-jin, who worked at the city's largest art museum. Mi-jin, have you ever heard of Peacock House? She asked when her friend answered. Of course. Everyone in the art world knows about it. Mi-jin replied excitedly. They say it has one of the best private art collections in Korea. But they rarely let anyone inside. Why do you ask? When Hye-yeon told her about the invitation, Mi-jin gasped. You have to go. This could be huge for your career. Do-hyun is one of the most respected art collectors in Asia. Throughout the day, Hye-yeon couldn't focus on her work. She kept looking at the invitation and the mysterious feather. By evening, she had made up her mind. She would go to the ball. What did she have to lose? That night, she went home early to look for something to wear. In the back of her closet, she found a dark blue dress she had bought for her cousin's wedding last year. It would have to do. As she lay in bed that night, Hye-yeon wondered what Peacock House would be like. Would it be as magical as people said? What kind of project did they want to discuss with her? The peacock feather sat on her bedside table, its colors somehow glowing softly in the dark. She fell asleep thinking about grand ballrooms and mysterious paintings, not knowing that her life was about to change forever. Saturday evening arrived with perfect weather. At exactly 6 o'clock, a black car stopped in front of Hye-yeon's studio. The driver, dressed in a formal uniform, stepped out and opened the door for her. Hye-yeon smoothed her dark blue dress and got in, her heart beating quickly with excitement. The car drove away from the busy city streets and headed toward the hills. As they climbed higher, Hei-yun noticed the houses becoming fewer and the trees becoming more numerous. After 30 minutes, they turned onto a private road marked by tall iron gates decorated with peacock designs. The driveway was long and lined with old trees. When Peacock House finally came into view, Hei-yun could not help but gasp. The mansion was enormous, built of gray stone with tall windows that sparkled in the evening light. 2 peacock statues stood guard at the front steps, their tails spread wide and decorated with real gems that caught the light. As Hei-yun stepped out of the car, she heard soft music coming from inside. Other guests were arriving too, all dressed in elegant clothes. What caught her attention was that everyone wore masks. Some looked like birds, others like butterflies or mysterious creatures. Hei-yun suddenly felt underdressed. "Welcome to Peacock House," a gentle voice said. A tall man approached her, wearing a simple black suit and a mask made of peacock feathers. "I am Do-hyun. I'm very pleased you could join us." "Miss Hei-yun." Do-hyun handed her a mask made of blue and silver feathers. "We provide masks for all our guests," he explained. "It's a tradition at our gatherings." Hei-yun put on the mask, surprised at how comfortable it felt. Do-hyun led her inside, and she entered a world more beautiful than anything she had imagined. The entrance hall was huge, with a ceiling so high she had to tilt her head back to see it. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen rain, casting rainbow patterns on the marble floor. But what truly caught her attention were the peacock designs. They were everywhere, carved into the wooden panels on the walls, painted on the ceiling, woven into the carpets. Each one seemed slightly different, and Hei-yun could have sworn some of them moved when she wasn't looking directly at them. "The main ballroom is through here," Do-hyun said, leading her through tall double doors. "But first, I'd like to show you something in the art gallery." They walked down a corridor lined with mirrors. Hei-yun noticed something strange about these mirrors. Her reflection seemed to move a fraction of a second after she did, as if it were trying to catch up with her. She blinked and looked again, but everything appeared normal. The art gallery took her breath away. Paintings covered every wall, arranged perfectly under soft lighting. Some looked hundreds of years old, while others appeared more recent. Each one was masterfully created and in perfect condition. "Your reputation as an art restorer impressed us," Do-hyun said, stopping in front of a large painting. "We have some pieces that require special attention. Pieces that only someone with your unique sensitivity might understand." Before Hei-yun could ask what he meant by unique sensitivity, another guest approached them. It was a young man wearing a mask made of dark blue feathers. "Ah, Kita," Do-hyun said. "This is Hei-yun, our special guest. Kita is our curator. He can tell you more about the collection while I attend to other guests." As Do-hyun walked away, Kita bowed slightly to Hei-yun. She noticed his hands trembling slightly as he gestured toward the paintings. "These works have been in Peacock House for generations," he said quietly. "Each one holds secrets that few can understand." Hei-yun was about to ask what kind of secrets when the music from the ballroom grew louder. Kita seemed to relax slightly. "Perhaps we should join the other guests," he suggested. "The ball is about to begin properly." As they walked toward the ballroom, Hei-yun couldn't shake the feeling that both Do-hyun and Kita knew something about her that she didn't know herself. The peacock designs on the wall seemed to watch her pass, their jeweled eyes gleaming in the chandelier light. Whatever secrets Peacock House held, she was certain she would discover them before the night was over. Before joining the ball, Hei-yun asked Kita if she could examine one more painting. He agreed, though she noticed his shoulders tense slightly. They walked to the far end of the gallery, where a large painting hung alone on the wall. At first glance, the painting showed a ballroom scene from the 1920s. Ladies in long dresses danced with gentlemen in formal suits. A crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling, and peacock designs decorated the walls. Hei-yun realized it was a painting of this very ballroom. "This is quite remarkable," she said, moving closer. But as she stepped to the left, something strange happened. The scene in the painting changed slightly. Now it showed the same ballroom, but in a different time period. The ladies wore different dresses, and the men's clothes were from an earlier era. Hei-yun blinked and moved to the right. The painting changed again. Now the ballroom was empty except for a single couple dancing beneath the chandelier. Their clothes looked modern, perhaps from the present day. "Kita," she said carefully, "is this painting supposed to change?" Kita's hands were definitely shaking now. He pulled out a handkerchief and wiped his forehead. "You can see the changes?" he asked quietly. Most visitors only see a normal ballroom scene. Hei-yun moved back to the center position. The painting returned to the 1920 scene. "How is this possible?" she asked. "I've never seen anything like it." Kita looked around to make sure they were alone. "This painting is special," he whispered. "It shows the truth about Peacock House. The ballroom you see in there. It exists in different times, all at once." Before Hei-yun could ask what he meant, Kita continued. "The artist who created this painting understood the magic of this place. She painted what she saw, a room that exists in multiple times. But maintaining these different times, it takes great effort." His voice grew tired as he spoke. Hei-yun noticed that Kita looked pale and weak. "Are you all right?" she asked. "I have been the curator here for a very long time," he said. "Longer than you might believe. But my strength is fading. That's why Do-hyun invited you here. We need someone with the right kind of vision. Someone who can see what others cannot." Hei-yun looked back at the painting. Now she noticed small details she had missed before. Behind the dancing figures, she could see doorways that seemed to lead into different times. The chandelier in the painting cast light that split into different colors, each color connecting to a different version of the room. "Look behind the painting," Kita said suddenly. "There's something you should see." Hei-yun carefully lifted the edge of the frame. Behind it, written in faded ink, were strange symbols and words in a language she didn't recognize. But one word stood out, written in clear Korean: "Guardian." "What does this mean?" she asked, turning back to Kita. But he was already walking away, moving quickly toward the ballroom. "Join the dance," he called back to her. "Everything will become clearer as the night goes on. But be careful who you trust. Not everyone at this ball is from the same time as you." Hei-yun stood alone in front of the painting. As she watched, the figures in it continued to dance, moving between different eras as if time meant nothing to them. From the ballroom, she could hear music playing, the same music that seemed to be playing in the painting. She touched the frame gently, and for a moment, she felt a warm energy flow through her fingers. The peacock designs on the frame seemed to shimmer, their eyes following her movements. Hei-yun understood now that she had been invited to Peacock House for more than just her skills as an art restorer. But what exactly did they want from her? Taking a deep breath, she turned toward the ballroom. Whatever secrets this place held, she was determined to uncover them all. The ballroom of Peacock House was filled with soft music and the gentle sound of people talking. Hei-yun entered slowly, taking in the magnificent room. The ceiling rose high above, and the crystal chandelier she had seen in the painting sparkled overhead. Its light created beautiful patterns on the marble floor, forming shapes that looked like peacock feathers. As she walked around the edge of the room, Hei-yun watched the other guests dancing. Their masks glittered in the chandelier light, making it hard to tell who was who. She noticed something odd about the mirrors that lined the walls. Sometimes, when dancers passed by them, their reflections seemed to wear different clothes than they were actually wearing. "Would you like to dance?" a voice asked beside her. Hei-yun turned to see a tall man wearing a mask made of dark green and gold feathers. He smiled kindly and held out his hand. "My name is Jai-ho," he said as Hei-yun accepted his invitation. His voice was warm and friendly, making her feel at ease. As they began to dance, Hei-yun noticed that Jiaho moved with unusual grace, as if he had been dancing in this ballroom for many years. "You seem very familiar with Peacock House," she said carefully. Jiaho smiled again. "Yes, you could say I know this place quite well. I noticed you looking at the mirrors. Did you see anything interesting?" Hei-yun decided to be honest. The reflections seemed strange. Sometimes they don't match what's really happening. "Ah, so you can see it," Jiaho said, sounding pleased. "The mirrors in Peacock House show more than just reflections. They show glimpses of different times. Look over there." He turned them gracefully so Hei-yun could see one of the larger mirrors. In it, she saw herself dancing with Jiaho, but her blue dress had changed to a style from the 1920s. Jiaho's reflection wore a formal suit from the same era. "How is this possible?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Peacock House exists in many times at once," Jiaho explained as they continued to dance. "The mirrors show us these different times. Some of the guests you see tonight are from other eras. We gather here when the times align perfectly, like they do tonight." As they danced past another mirror, Hei-yun saw their reflection wearing clothes from even further in the past. The crystal chandelier above them cast its light in strange patterns, and she realized the patterns weren't random. They formed symbols similar to the one she had seen behind the painting. "The changing painting in the gallery," she said suddenly. "It shows the same thing, doesn't it? The ballroom in different times." "Very good," Jiaho nodded. "You're understanding quickly. That's why you were invited here. Not many people can see these things so clearly." They danced in silence for a moment. Hei-yun noticed that when they passed certain spots on the floor, the music seemed to change slightly, playing tunes from different eras. Sometimes she heard a waltz from centuries ago, other times modern classical music. "Kita seemed worried," she said finally. "He talked about being tired, about needing someone with the right kind of vision." Jiaho's expression became serious. "Yes, being curator of Peacock House is not a simple job. Kita has been maintaining the balance between different times for many years, but now he needs help." "Is that why I'm here?" Hei-yun asked. "But I'm just an art restorer. What could I do?" "You're more than that," Jiaho said quietly. "You can see what others can't. You understand art in a deep way. And most importantly, you can see how things change and flow between different times. These are rare and valuable gifts." As they turned again, Hei-yun caught a glimpse of Do-hyun watching them from across the room. He nodded slightly when he saw her looking. The peacock designs on the walls seemed to move in the changing light, their eyes following the dancers across the floor. "There's more you need to know," Jiaho said. "But first, shall we finish this dance?" Hei-yun nodded, her mind full of questions. As they continued to dance, she watched their reflections change in each mirror they passed, showing them moving through different times, all in the same magical ballroom. After the dance ended, Jiaho led Hei-yun back to the art gallery. The changing painting seemed to glow softly in the dim light. Hei-yun noticed something she hadn't seen before. A small peacock feather painted in the corner of the frame was pointing to the wall beside it. "Touch the wall there," Jiaho said quietly. "What do you feel?" Hei-yun placed her hand on the wall. Under her fingers, she felt a slight warmth, as if the wall itself was alive. As she moved her hand, she noticed a pattern of raised lines forming the shape of a door. "There are many hidden things in Peacock House," Jiaho explained. "But only those with the right gifts can find them." He reached past her and pressed 3 spots on the wall in a triangle pattern. There was a soft click, and a section of the wall swung inward, revealing a narrow passage. "Come," Jiaho said, taking the small lantern from a shelf. "There's something you need to see." The passage led downward in a gentle spiral. The walls were covered in more peacock designs, but these were different from the ones upstairs. These peacocks seemed to move slightly in the lantern light, their feathers shimmering with real colors. At the bottom of the stairs, they entered a circular room. Hei-yun gasped. The room was filled with strange and beautiful objects. Glass cases held peacock feathers that glowed with their own light. On shelves around the walls sat crystal balls that showed moving images from different times. A large mirror stood in one corner, but instead of reflections, it showed scenes from other places and times. "What is all this?" Hei-yun asked, her voice full of wonder. "These are the tools that help maintain the balance," Jai-ho answered. He walked to a large desk covered in old books and papers. "Look at these documents. They tell the true story of Peacock House." Hei-yun picked up one of the papers. It was old, but she could still read the writing. It explained how Peacock House had been built on a special place where different times came together naturally. The house's first owner had found a way to control these time crossings using peacock feathers and special mirrors. The house exists in many times at once, Jai-ho explained. But it needs someone to keep the times from mixing too much. That's what the curator does. Kita has been doing this work for many years, but now he's getting too tired. Hei-yun finished. She remembered how weak Kita had looked. "Yes," Jai-ho nodded. "The house chose you as a possible new guardian. That's why you can see the changes in the painting, why you can feel the hidden door, why the peacock designs move for you." Hei-yun picked up a glowing peacock feather from one of the cases. It felt warm in her hand, and she could see tiny images moving within its colors. Scenes from different times, all happening in Peacock House. "But how do you know all this?" she asked Jai-ho suddenly. "Who are you really?" Before he could answer, they heard footsteps on the stairs. Do-hyun appeared in the doorway, still wearing his peacock mask. "I see you found our secret room," he said calmly, "and the tools of the Guardian's trade. What do you think, Hei-yun? Do you begin to understand why we invited you here?" Hei-yun looked around the room again. The glowing feathers, the time-showing mirrors, the ancient books, it was all incredible. But something else caught her eye. On the desk lay a mask exactly like the one she was wearing, but it looked very old. Next to it was a painting of a woman wearing the same mask, dated 1924. The woman in the painting looked exactly like Hei-yun. "I think," she said slowly, "that I'm starting to understand everything." Do-hyun walked to the center of the hidden room and carefully removed his peacock mask. His face was kind but serious. He picked up an old book from the desk and opened it to a marked page. "Peacock House needs a new guardian," he said directly. "Kita has served faithfully for many years, but his strength is fading. We must find someone to take his place before the balance between times becomes unstable." Hei-yun looked at the old painting of the woman who looked like her. "Who was she?" she asked. "Her name was Minna," Do-hyun explained. "She was the guardian of Peacock House in 1924. Each guardian chooses their successor, someone who can see the true nature of this place. Minna saw you, Hei-yun, in one of our time viewing mirrors. She knew you would come." Jai-ho stepped forward. "The house connects to special people across different times. That's how we found you. Your work as an art restorer shows you understand how to preserve the past while keeping it alive in the present. This is exactly what a guardian must do." Do-hyun placed a glowing peacock feather in Hei-yun's hand. "This is a test," he said. "Hold the feather and focus on it. Tell me what you see." Hei-yun looked carefully at the feather. Its colors began to shift and change. In its shimmering surface, she saw images forming. She saw Peacock House as it had been in different times, when it was first built, during grand parties in various eras, and in quieter moments between celebrations. "I can see the house's history," she said softly. "All its different times, flowing together like streams joining into a river." Do-hyun nodded approvingly. "The previous guardian always sees the next one coming," he said. "Kita saw you in the time mirrors months ago. That's why we arranged for your invitation. But being a guardian is not easy. You must learn to keep the different times separate while allowing them to flow naturally." Kaite appeared at the door, looking tired but relieved to see them. "The changing painting was your first test," he said. "Most people see only one time in it, but you saw the truth, how the ballroom exists in many times at once. Hei-yun remembered the strange symbols behind the painting. Those markings behind the frame, are they instructions for the guardian? Yes, Kita answered. They are part of the ancient magic that helps control the flow of time. A guardian must learn to read them. They tell us when the times are in harmony and when they need adjustment. What happens if the times aren't kept in balance? Hei-yun asked. Do-hyun's face became serious. If the times mix too much, they could collapse into each other. Past, present, and future would become confused. It could affect not just Peacock House, but the whole world around it. That's why we need a new guardian, Jae-ho added. Someone strong enough to maintain the separation between times, but sensitive enough to allow the natural connections that should exist. Hei-yun thought about everything she had seen that evening. The changing painting, the strange mirrors, the magical artifacts in this hidden room. It was overwhelming, but somehow it also felt right, as if she had been preparing for this moment without knowing it. What must I do? She asked. If I want to accept this role. Do-hyun smiled. First, you must learn. Kita will teach you the ancient symbols and how to use the guardian's tools. You must understand how to read the time mirrors and interpret the peacock signs. Most importantly, you must learn to feel the natural flow of time and know when to guide it and when to let it run its course. The choice must be yours, Kita said gently. Being a guardian means dedicating your life to protecting this place and its secrets. It is a great responsibility. Hei-yun looked at the glowing feather in her hand. In its light, she could still see images of Peacock House through the ages, each time period distinct but connected to all the others. She knew her answer would change her life forever. As Hei-yun considered the responsibility before her, Jae-ho stepped into the soft light of the hidden room. He removed his mask, and Hei-yun noticed something extraordinary about his appearance. His face seemed to shift slightly, sometimes looking younger, sometimes older, as if time couldn't quite decide how to perceive him. There is something you should know, Jae-ho said, his voice carrying the weight of years. I am not just a guest at this ball. I have been a guardian of Peacock House for over 200 years. Hei-yun stared at him in surprise. He looked no older than 30, yet his eyes held wisdom that could only come from centuries of experience. Do-hyun nodded in confirmation of Jae-ho's words. How is this possible? Hei-yun asked. The guardians of Peacock House exist in all times at once, Jae-ho explained. We learn to move between different periods, maintaining the balance. This is why I could guide you tonight. I have watched over this house since 1824, and I will continue to do so far into the future. Hei-yun walked around the room, looking more carefully at the magical objects. The peacock designs on the walls seemed to respond to her presence, their colors becoming brighter as she passed. The peacock symbols are more than decoration, Jae-ho continued. They are anchors that hold the different time periods in place. Each feather in their tails represents a different era. When they glow like this, it means they recognize a potential guardian. Keita stepped forward, holding an ancient book. This is the Guardian's Journal, he said. It contains the knowledge of every guardian who has served Peacock House. See here. He opened the book to show Hei-yun a page with elegant handwriting. These are Minna's words from 1924, describing the night she saw you in the time mirror. Hei-yun read the page carefully. Minna had written about seeing a young woman in modern clothes, standing in front of the changing painting. She described Hei-yun's ability to see the different time periods and her natural understanding of the house's magic. But why me? Hei-yun asked, looking up from the journal. The house chooses those who understand both preservation and change, Do-hyun explained. As an art restorer, you know how to maintain the past while allowing it to speak to the present. This is the essence of what we do here. Jae-ho touched one of the time-viewing mirrors, and it showed scenes from his centuries as guardian. Hei-yun saw him guiding other guardians, maintaining the delicate balance between times, ensuring the safety of Peacock House through many eras. If you accept this role, Jaiho said, I will help you learn, just as I helped Kita and the guardians before him. We would work together, protecting this place and its magic. The crystal chandelier above cast its light through the room, creating patterns that matched the flowing times Hei-yun had seen in the magical feather. She realized that everything in Peacock House was connected. The paintings, the mirrors, the peacock designs, and the guardians themselves. The choice must be made tonight, Do-hyun said gently. The times are perfectly aligned during this ball, making it possible to pass the guardian's power from Kita to a new protector. Hei-yun looked at Kita, who seemed both tired and hopeful. She looked at Jaiho, whose presence spanned centuries. She looked at Do-hyun, who had brought her to this magical place. Finally, she looked at her own reflection in the time mirror, seeing herself as she might be in different eras, always connected to Peacock House. The decision she would make would not just change her life, it would connect her to the endless flow of time itself, making her part of the house's eternal dance between past, present, and future. The crystal chandelier in Peacock House cast its warm light over Hei-yun as she made her decision. She looked at the glowing peacock feather in her hand and knew what she must do. I accept the role of guardian, she said clearly. Her voice echoed slightly in the hidden room, and the peacock designs on the walls brightened in response. Do-hyun smiled and opened the guardian's journal to a fresh page. Then let us begin the ceremony, he said. He handed Hei-yun an elegant pen made of silver and decorated with tiny peacock feathers. Kita stepped forward, holding a small wooden box. Inside was a collection of glowing peacock feathers, each one representing a different time period. These will be your tools, he explained. They will help you maintain the balance between times. Jaiho guided Hei-yun to the center of the room. The ceremony is simple but important, he said. First, you must write your name in the guardian's journal. This connects you to all the guardians who came before. Hei-yun carefully wrote her name in the journal. As she finished the last stroke, the ink seemed to shimmer and change colors, like the feathers themselves. Below her signature, the date appeared in flowing script, showing not just the current year, but all the years the house existed in. Now, Jaiho continued, hold out the feather I gave you earlier. Hei-yun held up the glowing feather. Kita approached and touched it with one of his own guardian feathers. A soft light passed between them, and Hei-yun felt a gentle warmth flow through her body. She could suddenly sense all the different time periods in Peacock House more clearly than ever before. The power of the guardian is passing to you, Do-hyun explained. You will now be able to move between times as needed, maintaining the boundaries while allowing the natural connections to remain. The room filled with a soft, multicolored light as the transfer of power continued. Hei-yun could feel the history of Peacock House flowing through her. She saw glimpses of past guardians, each one protecting the house in their own time. She saw Minna from 1924, smiling at her through the years. She saw Jaiho in different eras, always watching over the house's magic. When the light faded, Kita looked relieved and younger, as if a great weight had been lifted from him. I will stay on as your advisor, he said, but the main responsibility is now yours. Let us return to the ball, Do-hyun suggested. The guests will want to meet their new guardian. They walked back up to the ballroom, where the party continued. But now, Hei-yun saw everything differently. She could tell which guests were from which time periods. She noticed how the chandelier's light helped keep the times properly separated while allowing them to exist together in harmony. Jaiho offered his hand for another dance. As they moved across the floor, Hei-yun realized she could now see all the reflections in the mirrors clearly, each one showing a different time, all connected through the magic of Peacock House. Welcome to your new role, Jaiho said warmly. We will work together through the years, watching over this special place. The changing painting that had first shown Hei-yun the truth now responded to her presence, shifting its scenes in rhythm with her movements. The peacock designs throughout the house glowed softly, acknowledging their new guardian. As the night continued, Hei-yun danced through different times, learning to feel the delicate balance between them. She knew her life had changed forever, but she felt ready for the challenge. With Jai-ho's guidance and the magic of Peacock House supporting her, she would learn to be a proper guardian, preserving the past while protecting the future. The crystal chandelier sparkled overhead, its light creating patterns of peacock feathers on the floor. Time flowed around them like a gentle river, and Hei-yun knew she was exactly where she was meant to be.